I've built a network with purpose. It's not always about investing in property. It's about creating cash flow. It's about starting businesses. It's about feeding families. It's about living your why, living your purpose.
Standing here today feels like a full circle moment, a moment that honors not just an award I received, but a journey that reshaped my life, my leadership, and my vision of impact.
I don't think that there is a single one event which captures the imagination of an investor like an event like this.
I want to see people gain confidence and actually be able to invest in properties and really gain a meaningful impact in their lives and be able with confidence to come out and invest and get more involved in the economy and create opportunities for themselves.
We're so honored. It's such a privilege for us to continue our partnership that we have with SEPN. We are so proud to be able to see some of the achievements that we have had tonight.
Today was so impactful for me as we launched because we saw different levels of winners from the previous Investor of the Year, from beginners, from newcomers, from youth up to big leagues. For me, it's an inspiration to those that were fearful in entering Investor of the Year.
I want to encourage everybody to enter for the 2026 Investor of the Year and just see how your story can be told to the rest of South Africa.
It is phenomenal. The stories that we hear today, and it's so inspiring that this platform helps entrepreneurs to leapfrog into new opportunities.
I encourage you to really come in and invest and really enter into Investor of the Year because it can really change your life. Just go ahead, take the plunge and get in and register.
The stories of the winners has been awesome. It's inspiring, and that's exactly what SEPN is about. We are very proud to be associated with SEPN as a company, and we look forward to many, many more collaborations moving forward.
Since my journey with SEPN, I've been on a growth path. I have met a lot of people who are also willing to invest in my deals. I have had doors open for me, more opportunities, and I just love being a part of the SEPN community.
It was fantastic to listen to the amazing stories that these category winners and contestants shared with all of us. So this is a fantastic journey.
We are so looking forward to 2026 Investor of the Year. We want to see who's going to take away all the prizes and who's going to be the main champion. So please get your entries ready and submit.
Guys, what an evening here at Villa Bianca, the launch of 2026 Investor of the Year. We have partners, sponsors, previous entrants, even future entrants entering. This is such a great initiative for all South Africans in the property space. So I urge you, take that next step into Investor of the Year, build your profile, because remember, credibility meets opportunity. It's not always who you know, it's who knows you.
And we are live, ladies and gents. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I do see a couple of people have joined. Welcome to episode number 3 of the Beyond the Deal podcast. And on this episode, we will be joined by investor extraordinaire, Mr. Mabuye Mokoena, a bit later on. But ladies and gents, for those of you joining me, firstly, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know where you are joining me from. Hey, please let me know down below. And we are all geared towards Investor of the Year 2026. And our overall theme is where credibility meets opportunity, and it's not always about who you know, but who knows you. So, ladies and gents, we have launched in collaboration with Investor of the Year. We have launched something called Beyond the Deal, because when we think about the Investor of the Year awards, this year is going to be different from all other years, because this year we are taking you through the entire journey with us, where we are going through round 1 judging, round 2 judging, round 3 until the final evening. And you all get to be a part of it. You all get to vote. You all get to meet the contestants early and see their development towards the final Investor of the Year awards happening this year. So, ladies and gents, last week we had round 1 judging, which there were 2 contestants that did join and were judged, namely Ntsiki as well as Smangaliso. And I will be revealing a bit later on. I'll reveal which of them have made it to round number 2. But if you are looking to invest or looking to join the competition, competition, ladies and gents, please go on our website, do enter. The ultimate goal of the Investor of the Year Awards is to highlight stories, because when I think of my journey, I've been in the property industry for 10 years, over 10 years now. And when I started, what played a massive role was when I attended the Investor of the Year, I think in 2019, where Dana Bonzai won. And I sort of heard the stories that were being told of how average, ordinary South Africans are changing the course of their lives using property as a vehicle. And they're doing some cool deals, and seed in me to tell me that if I could do it, if they can do it, I can do it as well. All I needed was the education, the network, and to take massive action. But all that came together because of the Investor of the Year Awards. So once more, good afternoon, everyone. And we have created the Beyond the Deal podcast again to highlight the stories of different individuals in the property sector that are doing some phenomenal work. We also created this podcast to highlight how difficult the difficulties that these investors had to go through to change the course of the world around them. And amongst them, ladies and gents, one of my heroes and one of the people that I actually look up to is joining us. And so his name is Mr. Mabuye Mokoena. Mabuye, how are you doing?
I'm all right in yourself, Dan. Yeah, quite a bit of an intro. Too much pressure for one man.
Hey, that's not the intro part, right? That is not the intro part. So, ladies and gents, for those of you that do not know Mr. Mabuye, he's the group CEO of the Mokoena Africa group of companies that focus on a wide range of things, from facility management, property investment to property management. And has been in the space for over 20 years as well, and is a father to an awesome person. Made me say he's a husband, not a father. Husband to an amazing lady by the name of Tepiso that is in the background as well, and an awesome father to some amazing kids. An award-winning property entrepreneur in 2024. He won the most innovative category within the Investor of the Year Award. So it's quite a lot, a mouthful when you look at the intro. But Mabuye, how's it going? How's your...
It's cool, thanks, Dan. But I just need to correct you there. So I was a runner-up. However, I will just say I'm probably the most successful runner-up that you'll ever find in the property space. So it's just like idols, the guy who comes second is the one that always does better than the winners. So I put it that
fair. That is actually true, and it's quite successful. But went through your time for being on with us. Maybe tell us a bit about yourself. I think we went through your bio. It speaks levels towards who you are, your entrepreneurial skills. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Talk me through early stages of your life. Where were you born? And as many details as you can tell us.
So so just to answer that question up front, Dan, if I had to say, was the entrepreneurial journey or the bug always in me? I don't think so. But to give you maybe a bit of a background about who I am, I grew up in a township called Sebokeng, and that's where I was born. I lived the better part of my life there, and somewhere in the 90s, late 90s, my dad decided to move to a suburb, to move us to a suburb in Riverside. So at the time, I went to my primary schooling in a primary school called Oliver Lodge. And then from there, I moved on to high school. Then I went to a boarding school, Potch Boys High, where I was introduced to a sport called rugby because I was always a soccer person. And then while I was in Potch Boys High, I typical boarding school, it's either you played rugby or you played hockey. So there was no in between, there was no soccer. Grabbed onto rugby and then, ran away with it. And then around 1998 or 1997, my parents moved to the suburbs. So they moved from Sebokeng to a suburb called Three Rivers. So subsequent to that, where the house was located was literally 5 houses away from a good school called Riverside High. So my dad at the time was in business. So being the money savvy man that he was, convinced me to move from Potch Boys High into Riverside purely because of it's only a couple of houses away. So it means what? It's a couple of meters away from there. And then reluctantly, so I agreed. to move away from boarding school. You went to a Riverside. It's still a public school. Then from Riverside, started playing rugby there. It wasn't such a big sport, so it was quite a big shift from a sporting perspective. I went from a very, very competitive sporting environment now to a more academic school, because in the Val, Riverside was a very academic school. I was an average student. I'm not going to lie, and I'll put it out there. Average student. There was nothing, that could tell that I was going to be an
No
A
top of the
student.
class.
Yeah, there was no high expectations then. I was an average. I was an average student, and then I passed my matric year. Well, look, I did become a prefect in school, so that maybe counts for leadership. I became a prefect, and then I passed matric. And then after matric, I was torn between how to study. I wanted to do engineering, and I decided to take a gap year. And then again, my father came into his, parenting skills and pushed me towards hospitality. So then I'm a mean chef, so I can hold my own in the kitchen. So for all the ladies that think that they can outdo me, I can hold myself in the kitchen. I can cook very, very well. I did hospitality then it was called TUT, what's known today as TUT. It was in Pretoria Tech at the time. Then when I graduated in 2004, I had obviously the opportunity to do my in-service training. And then that's when I left the country and went to England to do my in-service training. And that's when the bug of rugby still took over there. And then I played to about third tier level in England of rugby. So, there's Premier League and then there's second and third tier.
When did you get to England though?
So I got to England in 2004. So I started in England in about 2004, end of 2003, 2004, went to England. Then I did my in-service training, graduated, but I didn't come to my graduation. So I still am waiting to wear a robe. So they send it via post. And then I stayed in England for a few more years, then came back to the country in and around 2007. Yeah, if my math is correct. 2007, 2008, came back to the country. And then that's when really my working life began, my formal working life in South Africa. I worked for a bit, still in the hospitality industry. And then one of the things I then quickly realized was that, the journey is harsh, man. To get into a senior management level at hospitality, it was going to take me till I'm 50, which I'm not yet at the moment. So that means I still wouldn't have been, at that level of a GM. And then, somewhere around 2009, moved jobs around. I was at some point, I'm a trained financial advisor. So I'm a qualified financial advisor, did that for a few years. So at the time, that's when my property life kind of began, But typically, I bought my first property in 2008. But how did I buy it? I bought it under the same story that most of us were told the story that property is a good, it's a good investment. You can't go wrong with property. Property will always appreciate in value, and then that's where I did, and I bought that property. Subsequent to that, I rented it out, never lived in it, but it turned out to be one of the most problematic headaches because I've been to court. I've been to court with that property, the evictions that we shouldn't have done in the right way. But at the time, my entrepreneurial journey had not begun. So maybe I think when I became a financial advisor is maybe where the start of it was. So because there, whatever you're earning is commission based, or whatever you're earning is dependent on the work that you do. So I kind of understood that concept there. And then somewhere along the line, I moved to other bigger corporations when I left the financial advising space. And I think that was when I got married. And I realized that, hey, this was too turbulent. I got married in 2011. And then my firstborn was on the way, and this was too volatile, So then I went back into corporate South Africa, junior management, and also then realized that this is also a miserable life. And I stayed there till.
What was miserable about it?
I think a part of me always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but and I'm not shooting down corporate because it's not for everyone. Corporate and entrepreneurial life is not for everyone because there's a lot of sacrifices you make. So, but corporate, I found that everything is structured and, the working hours, that's when I've really found a lot about myself. I'm not one who prescribes to working hours. I work in very odd hours. I'm more creative in the wee hours of the morning. So unfortunately, that's not something that, back then, certainly now they're more flexible in corporate, but back then it was very, very rigid, in terms of the working hours. And then I just knew that somewhere something got to give. And somewhere around 2017, I was kind of pushed in that direction. Sat down with my boss and they said, look, we are not renewing contracts because I was in the sales department. So I went basically full turnkey. So I went for one, I'm not going to mention the companies, but I went from one where I was working in operations. So I started understanding operations of how this works, So it was in the cleaning sector. And then from there on, I moved to another company, which was its competitor. And then I moved to the facilities management sector. But I must be honest and tell you then the one thing that made me very different is that when I went into a job, whatever job that I took, I didn't just go there to earn money. I wanted to understand how it actually worked. So in the cleaning space, I remember one of the conversations I used to have was that, how do you guys make money? Where do we make money? And I remember that we used to have a very strict boss, but who was very savvy in terms of how the cleaning industry worked. And he sat me down and showed me what a P&L was. So I was the first one to say, you keep saying I'm making a loss, in terms of I'm managing. I think at the time I was managing about 60 contracts, and then in the 60 contracts, he used to say to me, but your portfolio is making a loss. And I got tired of that. And I said, how? Then they sat me down and started making me understand what a P&L is. And then, how does it work? And therefore, when I moved to my next chapter of life, which was in the facility space, I kind of then started understanding again, bringing that knowledge and understanding how does facilities work? How do you integrate the two, moving from just cleaning and what is facilities? And then in 2017, that's where entrepreneurial life started. So yeah.
Okay. So just if we can pause there, Mabuye, I think so you came from the UK, right? So you finished your varsity, you went to the UK, decided to come back to South Africa, right?
Yeah.
And you took on a few sales jobs and became a financial advisor.
At some point in time, I found myself in that space.
And then I think you mentioned in 2011 was a pivotal year because you got married in 2011. And that introduced, I think, one of the best parts of knowing Mabuye, I think, is knowing his wife, Tepiso. So I just wanna maybe pause there because we've had 3 episodes and I think we've had Andrew Walker, Darren Francis, and they've both explained the importance of their marriage, how Simone for Andrew, when it was quite difficult, that stability of having a wife to go to for Andrew was quite reassuring and helped him focus. Anna, talk maybe about quickly before we move on to then you starting a business. You come from the UK, you start working. 2011, you get married. How did you meet Tepiso?
It was through church. It was through church. So one of the things that I did in church is that I became I was heading up the youth desk at the time. In and around 2010-ish, I was heading up the youth desk. So one of the mandates that we had was, integrating all the youth within Joburg, or all the churches within Joburg. And then Tepiso happened to be in one of those churches, in one of those at the Catholic, because I practice Catholic faith, and then she happened to be in one of those churches, and then that's how we met. But I can now say openly that she's the one who liked me. Not the other way around first. So she noticed me first. And
we don't believe you.
It's a publicly known. I've got videos where she confesses that she liked me first, and then she declared it to the universe that that's my husband. So there is evidence out there that she did say that. But in coming back to how that has also helped me, Dan, maybe fast track into a few years later. I don't know if you want us to fast track to a few years
Yeah,
later,
please.
but within that space, when I started the entrepreneurial journey, when in 2017, one door closed of corporate South Africa, where I said to myself, I'm not going back to find another job. That is where the importance of Tshepiso came in that from 2017, say July 2017, and I still know the date, 15th July 2017, I got my last paycheck, provident funds, everything got paid, right? To take fast forward that to about March 2019, April 2019, at that time, my business was making zero and literally 0 cents. And then
And what
obviously
was the business that you actually started? So you were in the
So-
cleaning space, hospitality.
Yeah.
Did you continue hospitality? What was the business?
So no, it wasn't hospitality. So it was in the cleaning space. So then started a cleaning business. I started a cleaning business, and because I came from that, it was so in the cleaning space, because I came from operations, so it was easier. But and I'll come back to this point just quickly. Let me just get through where Tshepiso's importance was. But I want to come back to the point of sometimes when you're starting off a business, right? But Tshepiso was very pivotal in the sense that for 2 years I was not earning anything.
Jeez.
As a business. So for 2 years, we were not making money in this business. We're getting odd jobs here and there. So I then had to rely on her because she's an engineer by profession and she was still working at the time. So I had to rely on her salary for us to live. And culturally, it's not something that is, it's something that is frowned upon, as a male, that your role is to provide. And this time I was not the provider, so to speak. So
Jeez.
that was important to have that anchor.
Did you say 2 years, right? So 2 years,
Almost 2 years, almost 2 years.
You married Tshepiso, you had kids that time, 1 kid?
Yeah, the other one, the second one had just come in 2015. And then, so from 2015 to 2017, we had a small child. We just bought a house in 2016. So we moved from a flat, we just bought a house, then kind of, I would say, retrenchment happens. It's not even voluntary. Retrenchment happens in 2017. But when the retrenchment happened, I made a vow that I will never go back to corporate South Africa again. So I just wanted to put the importance of that stability, that she brought in when the chips were down.
And how was it mentally, hey? I think we read your bio at the start, award-winning entrepreneur. You've been in the space, quite successful in the space. How was the mentally? I'm sure it took a toll on you, hey? For 2 years, no income, the cultural aspects that you've just brought now. How did you get through it, man?
So I think, which is something that we, when I said I'm going to come back to the trail back to when now the working life. So one of the things that I did every single day of that time, even when there was no contract, right, is that the mindset is so important. I had to keep myself sane. And how I did that is that every single day, right, I was working from home. So I had a little room outside, where the outside room, what's supposed to be in the nanny's room. So we turned that into a small little office. Every single day, even without a contract, I woke up and I dressed like this, as you can see me in a shirt and in, formal trousers, and got into that office. And every time I had to remind myself, I'm a successful businessman. I'm a successful businessman. And that's what kept me going. But not only did it just do that for myself, but it also helped Tshepiso to keep buying into this vision that I said, this is the type of life I'm going to give you. So she bought into that vision. But every single day, I woke up, whether it's that thing of act as if, but I woke up every single day, Monday to Friday, waking up every single morning. There's no contract. There's tenders to fill out. I just did it every single day. That's part of what kept me sane. But then also I wanted to allude to the point of, because I was coming from an operation, so when you're starting off a business, you don't realize there's something called administration. So in my early days in 2017, I think I remember spending probably the first 6 months at the SARS office in Benoni. So at the time, SARS still allowed you to do a lot of walk-ins, right? because my dad was in business, but I was never really involved in that business. He always told me respect the tax man. So I had to now learn the administrative part of this business now. That it's not only about being operational. I knew how to run contracts. I knew, give me a contract, a cleaning contract, and I will run it for you leanly and I will make you money. But now venturing into entrepreneurship, now I suddenly became the bookkeeper. I suddenly became the salesperson. I suddenly filled out my tender documents. I had to file SARS. So I was my own accountant, sales manager, administration manager, everything in that business there. So that is where the fun part began, that there is just so many facets to entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of us who are operators kind of miss that there's an administrative part. And those who are administrative, strong, forget that there's this operations part, then there's a sales part. There's a lot of moving parts to this business, business thing, if I can put it that way. And we forget that we only focus on one aspect that we are good at. But if you're an entrepreneur, there's a whole lot of things that you're not good at that you need to become good at. So I spend a whole lot of time at SARS understanding that, so there's something called VAT returns, or there's something called IRP 5. There's something called, ITC 34. There's something called, income tax that I need to, do. There's something called provisional tax. So all those things I was never privy to until I started my business. So it's almost like having to go back to school and learning from that. But that's who I am by nature. I'm inquisitive. I'm always learning. So I spend so many days at SARS offices learning about what is required from them. Because, my dad put the fear of death in me about SARS, so I needed to make sure that that's a person that I needed to understand, and then started understanding the other facets of business. So that was something that was quite challenging and exciting, that I started learning that entrepreneurship is not about just managing a contract. There's more to it.
Did you almost quit at any point? I mean, 2 years, not a single,
Yeah, I think in that time, I'll be honest with you, there came a time when the conversation started happening with my wife about, look, maybe it's time you look at going back to corporate. I know she understood that. I said, I'm never going back to corporate. And there were a few times when I think towards maybe the end of 2018, where I was really considering polishing up my CV and going back to work. And by the grace of God, the universe, something magical happened at the end of 2018. That's when we got awarded our first contract. So I was bidding for this contract. Yeah, I was bidding for this contract. And in my mind, when I was working for corporate South Africa, right, I had actually managed a part of this contract. So when it came to the costings of it there, I kind of knew it so much. And then this specific company had 6 campuses that they wanted to run. So one of the campuses I knew so well, so I still knew how the costings worked and everything. So, and I remember praying and saying, God, if I could get a 2-man contract, just a 2-man contract, then it would show me that this was worthwhile. Like being retrenched and deciding not to go back would have been worthwhile. So I was praying for that. And by the end of 2018, we had got a 15-man contract.
Oi.
Yeah, so that moved from 2-man to 15. So we started our first contract on the 15th of December, 2018. But now you must understand now, it's all well and good when you get the contract, but then now how am I going to manage this contract? I need to buy them PPE. I need to get them, consumables. I need to get them chemicals. I need to get them equipment. And you kind of forget about that. And that was quite a funny story, that I remember somebody borrowing me their credit card to go swipe, to get PPE, to get the right equipment. And I had to ask from friends in the industry, guys, do you guys have equipment that I can borrow, old equipment that you've got that I can use for this contract? And I was very, very fortunate. Yeah. And I think people look at it now and it's like, it was not the same. So we ran around borrowing monies, and even people that had the money that would not borrow you, even though I had secured the contract, it's signed, there's the SLA agreement. We had to hustle every night and day to try to, sell off things, to kind of try get money to just raise for running this contract. Yeah, so that was December 2015. Sorry, December 2018, the 15th of December, where we got this contract, and we started running the contract. And then in February 2019, the extension of that contract kicked in. Now we had moved to about 100 employees. Now the headache began.
Jeez.
So now you've moved from 15 to about 100, 120. I think that's the number, 120 employees. Still the same headache. I even remember that there was a guy who was there with me in the beginning who actually took out an African bank loan of, I think it was 200,000 rands, because they believed in this loan. You know, your personal loans.
Yeah.
Somebody took out a personal loan of 200,000 rands for us to fund this. To fund this, yeah, because you can imagine you're having 100 employees. Come end of February, you need to pay them their salaries. You need to pay for, look, the client was also quite understanding in the beginning, I must be honest, that, you know, we're getting them the PPE, the right equipment, and you still have to pay them at the end of the month. So this individual was kind enough to actually take out a loan on their behalf. I don't know if I would do it now, but they did. But I think it just speaks to the fact that these guys they bought into the idea that we will make this great. And I think I'm one person who's always backing themselves. You know, when I say I'm going to do something, it will get done. And yeah, and I think the rest is history, man. In that space of cleaning space, and then obviously COVID happened. You know, so then COVID happened.
How was COVID?
Oh, so the good and the bad of COVID. So one thing that I did very, very well is that I invested back the profits into the company. So when we started seeing the signs of COVID, we started buying the right equipment and everything else. So when COVID hit in 2020, I was in the right business at the right time with the right equipment. We made decent money then. But post-COVID in 2021, that's where the popo hit the fan. Offices were closing down. Offices were not coming back. You know, people were working remotely. Then that is when now one of our biggest challenges came into being. That what do we do now as a business? Because now our clients have closed down their offices. What do we do now? So we had to reinvent ourselves. And that's where the whole facilities management part of the business kicked in. So we now had to look at what is it that we can do. Sorry, Dan, with energy, can I have a charger? So we needed to look at ourselves sorry, Dan, I'm just getting a charger because my laptop says my battery is empty. So we had to now reinvent ourselves as a business. So now we moved into the facilities management space. And then, we moved into facilities management, and then that's how Damalox Facilities came to being, you know. So now we did not only just do cleaning, but we then did cleaning, hygiene, pest control, but now we also did facilities maintenance as well. So
Fast forward couple of, I think, a year or two, you start property investing and entrepreneurship and buying assets. I think 2 questions. What made you, I mean, at this point, your business is quite successful. What made you go to property? And then, to have an understanding on what you've achieved in property before you met Sapin and Investor of the Year and everything.
So I always say that I had 2 introductions to property in my lifetime. So I had 2 introductions. So like I said, remember I said to you that in 2018, I bought my first property. So fast tracking to about 2022, 2021, 22, 23, first part of it there, we had about 5 properties at the time. We had 5 properties at the time because I was just buying, and I just want you to remember this. I was buying this as a pure buyer because they said property is nice. I just looked at the area. It looks nice. The property looks like it can make me money. Business is making a lot of money. So therefore, whatever I have to pay, I'm not really bothered about. So, you know, I was essentially paying my tenants to live in my flats. So that's the first entry part of my business there. So property was already in me. I liked it, but I had no reason to like it. I just liked it because I was told that it's a good investment. So there was nothing untoward about it. They was not making money. So then say around 2023, right? I saw a video by Andrew. So I kind of, with my business acumen, I kind of knew that this property portfolio, something is not right with it. I met a gentleman called Andrew Walker. He was advertising on Facebook, and then talked about all the right things about investing in property. So I'm just plugging in my laptop. So charging. So I met a gentleman by the Andrew Walker, and then I saw him, talking about all these things about how property can make you money from day one. Now that was something that was very fishy. I'll be honest with you. That was something that's a concept that I did not believe that it could be true. I attended a 2-day workshop, and I think it was on the 17th and 18th of June 2023. So I'm very good at things. So it was Father's Day. I remember that Sunday was a Father's Day. And then I joined the 2-day workshop. That's where we had our first interaction with you. And then I think at the time, I came in there with some arrogance, because I thought to myself, I've got 5 properties. No one can tell me what to do. I wanted to see what these guys can tell me. And I was quickly humbled. I think in the first hour of that, I was humbled. But in summarizing that, what I got out of there was, it blew my mind. I was suddenly shown what property can really do, subsequent to what I've learned about what property is, between yourself, Andrew, and the Serpent team. You showed me what property can really be about. And I think that is where my true love of property really came to be. So I really became an overachiever in my own rights, and that nobody can tell me otherwise. I became an overachiever in the property space, in terms of, I knew it's a road that I wanted, and I knew that it's something that I really can excel in, but purely because I got shown what it can do. So I really bought into that. And when I did that, it did wonders for me. So, if I had to tell you what my story is from 2023 to date, it's even I can't, fathom what has really, come out of this property, thing. Something that I used to call a property thing suddenly open up doors that I could not, in my entire universe, believe that it was possible for a person to do that.
Oh, 100%. And that's inspiring. So now, closing off the conversation, right? And maybe as we begin to wrap up, so you joined Sapin, you started educating yourself, right? Certain properties, you thought, okay, let's sell those. Let's change strategies. And then you went on and bought more and more. And then I think that's what made you enter the Investor of the Year awards, right? Because I think for those of you that are joining us, I think one of the biggest slogans that characterizes Mabuye is Black child, it's possible, hey? That you can do whatever you want to do, hey? No matter where you are, what you have. Talk to me about that decision to enter the Investor of the Year. What has it done for you? And there are some people that are watching this thinking, is it for them? Do they want to enter? There's the nerves. Do they want to put themselves out there? I think some advice for them.
So even when I entered Investor of the Year, I mean, it was nothing. I didn't think much of it, Dan, because in my own world, what I had, let me just put it what the Serpent team had helped me achieve in terms of converting from cash flow negative to cash flow positive property, right? I didn't think much of it. And I think that's where the problem with most people realize is that, oh no, it's too much of a small deal, or I can't really do this, right? So that's the type of mindset I had, right? Then I entered Property Investor of the Year. So mine was most innovative. So what we did is that we converted my then primary home into a multi-let. So meaning that basically that I could increase more revenue out of that. So, but even then, that was a process in itself. But without getting into a lot of detail, We've got the right, rezoning in place. We've got the right the structures in place. And then I entered Investor of the Year. I was one of the finalists. So currently what the guys are going through now, I've been through it, whereby we do a whole lot of, you get into stage 1 where you now having to present, and then stage 2, and then stage 3. And ultimately on the night itself, then I became a runner-up. And that's where I say I became the most successful runner-up there is in there. But what that did for me and my portfolio, it suddenly opened doors to me being, it added credibility. Let me just put it that way. It added credibility, so that we've got institutions that we work with that back the jockey. So if somebody knows that they're dealing with a finalist of Investor of the Year that is linked with ABSA, that is linked with SAPIN, suddenly people are willing to talk to you, because they're talking to somebody who's got credibility, somebody who's built something there.
Can
So
you
that
share
has
like
allowed me
one instance? Like what are you working on currently?
So what I'm currently working on now is I've moved over from, I've acquired a lot of multi-lets, but I've also joined ventures with quite a lot of SAPIN partners there. And then to the point of we are developing our first property. So it's a 26 unit somewhere in Joburg. I can't really disclose yet, somewhere in Joburg, but we are developing that now. So we are almost in the building phases now. The architecture's already started. And then, that is a big, big thing. But not only that, so again, what that has done in my life is that it has given me full circle into the property space. So it allows Diamolox to play in the space because now I own buildings, but not only that, my companies manage those buildings. And if there's repairs to be done. So I'm one of those people who's a bit selfish. I want to own the ecosystem. So I've started doing that. So the moment we have a development is done. So just to give you an example, when the development is done, so the development will be done, then it will be bought over by the property investment company. So which means they buy the asset, and then we've got the property management managing that asset. And that's a full ecosystem that I own, and that we get pieces of the pie from everywhere. So that's the type of thinking that SAPIN has allowed me to have and see. Look, as to where we are going next, I'm very excited about that, but I can't unfortunately share it because our company has grown so much to a point that we've now just recently appointed a board, so I'm very excited about that. I wish I could share it now as to who the chairman is but unfortunately, I need to get permissions now. So all of a sudden, I need to get permissions. Yes, corporatizing, I need to get permissions. Can I say this? Can I not say this? Has the chair approved it? And things like that. So, but our business has come to full circle enough that we've already got a chairperson of the board. Very, very excited. We've got bold dreams that are coming up. All I can tell you is hashtag 2032. That's all I can say. It's hashtag 2032. There is something that comes before that, but as I said, I can't share it now. But look forward to this space here. We're going big. We are going bold. We're taking this property game to the next level. That's what I'm excited about.
Hey, and like just being close to you, I'm super excited to see, number one, your growth. Hey, like where you started, some of the difficulties you had to endure, because entrepreneurship is extremely difficult. Hey, and there's
brutal,
a big price to pay. Hey, it's brutal,
I think
and you feel that
the
price.
right word is brutal. And I think the problem is in South Africa we glamorize it. We don't get to share the hard stories, and I think we don't get to hear enough of those hard stories that you will not get paid for 2 years, and those are some of the hardships that you get. Or sometimes you do the work and now you have to chase the client for your money, and in the meantime you have got expenses to pay. To give you an example, then the group itself employs over 400 people. So
Jeez.
come into the month, those 400 people, those 400 families have to be paid, because in South Africa, right, there's unofficial statement, but one salary gets to feed about 5 family members in South Africa. So imagine if I've got 400, that means I'm potentially impacting 2,000 people out there. Come end of the month, those people need to get paid. They don't care about your sob stories. They don't care whether the client hasn't paid you. They don't care whether you've been sick and whatever. They just want, you just know that the obligation is there for you to pay them. So those are some of the things that we don't get to see in South Africa, that we don't talk about in entrepreneurship, but it can be brutal. But at the end of the day, the rewards and the upside of it as well is absolutely fantastic. So it's the yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang. So, ladies and gents, you are watching Beyond the Deal, an Investor of the Year led podcast, as we are gearing towards 2026 Investor of the Year. It is your opportunity to, number one, join, get judged. We do the judging every single week. But I think as we are wrapping up, we are joined by Mr. Mabuye Mokoena, and he's going to give us parting words from himself, advice to any entrepreneur thinking about joining Investor of the Year, any entrepreneur struggling with their business. I think we'll go back to Mr. Mabuye for comments on his advice, being there, worn the t-shirt. Now, on the other side of things, what advice he has. But please do comment, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and let us know down below in the comment section which investor you want to see us interview next in the property space. So any investor that you would like to see seated here, telling us their stories, some of the difficulties they've gone through, let us know down below. But back to you, Mabuye, maybe in parting, last words of advice to anyone watching looking to give up, or anyone looking to join the Investor of the Year. I think twofold.
So let's maybe then deal with the first one here. To those who are in business, it's important to remember why you started. So remember why you started, and that has got to be compelling. That is what will fuel you when the chips are down. So remember why you started, and that's got to be strong. You've got to anchor that every single day, remembering why you started, because it's not going to be all roses. It's tough, but through the tough times, your why is the reason why you persevere and why you push through. It's just remember that there's a saying that says it will come to pass. You just gotta persevere enough to stay in the game. It will come to pass. So that's just the advice, simple advice that I've got for people who are starting off in business. And make sure you're starting off with the right reasons. Don't be sold the dream. Make sure that why anchors that. And then to the guys in the property space, I think the first thing, Dan, that I always advocate, black child, it's possible. You know that. And I know it's not mine. And I know somebody else, came up with that phrase, and I absolutely love it. And for me, I always say, where I come from, we have never been taught how to make money in property. Can property really make you money? And the answer is a resounding yes, it can. Can you make a very good living out of property? Yes, you can. And one of the beautiful things then, when I'm doing my coaching sessions and when I teach on my workshops, I always say to people, one thing I love about property is property meets you where you are, right? So in that saying, say going into Investor of the Year, property meets you where you are. If you're a beginner, be bold, go out there and enter Investor of the Year. Get the critique, get the advice, on how to do it. And then to those who are already doing it in the space there, go out and then get into Investor of the Year. And you just don't know what doors it will open for you. When I did my entry in 2024, I did not imagine that I would be able to engage with ABSA at the level that we engage in. As an example, who would have thought that you would engage with a bank directly, the decision makers? I would not have thought that I would be on the same stage with Robert Kiyosaki. You just don't know where this journey will take you, but take the first step. And for me, going into Investor of the Year was one of those pivotal moments that changed my life. So for those who are still thinking about it, for those who have done deals, just go in. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
100%. So thank you so much, Mr. Mabuye. I think we'll end it off by a comment I'm going to bring up right now, which is to Mabuye, looking forward to seeing doing more great things. And you're already doing some great things. So we're super excited. Thank you so much for your time, Mabuye. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gents, like Mabuye said, this is the Investor of the Year season. We are hosting online events, or you can get an opportunity to enter your deal. So whether you're a beginner intermediate or a big investor doing developments. Whether you've bought your very first property, ladies and gents, please enter the competition. There's different categories from beginner, intermediate, and big leagues. So you will be competing with people that are in and around your investment, call it, category as well. So please do not be terrified of entering. We do want to hear more of your story and to inspire one another. But like I said last week, we had two individuals that were judged, namely Smangaliso as well as Ntiki. And ladies and gents, I'd like to announce that only Ntiki has made it to the next round. Unfortunately, Smangaliso did not make it to round number 2. So Ntiki, if you are watching it, congratulations. We're going to start preparing you for round number 2. But in closing, ladies and gents, please remember this year, the overall theme is where credibility meets opportunity. And it's not who you know, but who knows you. So please enter the Investor of the Year awards. And I will see you next week for more round 1 judging together with the team. So please do join us, same time, same place.